So today I'm going to talk about not an issue, it's rather the subject of race. What's all this talk about? There's no such thing as like race, it doesn't exist. It's like saying there's like, oh, no difference between a Cocker Spaniel and a Dachshund, because they're all dogs, they're all of the same species, canine domesticated dogs, that is. So to say that race don't exist is trying to ignore all the obvious physical attribute to a person of its race, or if you prefer, ethnicity. Well, China, for example, is a country, of course, but a lot of people consider themselves as Chinese. Of course, over time, the racial attributes has been blurred. There were distinctions like 2,000 years ago more than like now. For example, people from North are considered as like barbarians, Mongolians, Manchurians, etc. And the Chinese are people who are so-called the people of the Han Dynasty or the Tang Dynasty, which are smaller in stature and perhaps smaller in stature and just southerners basically. So, but over time they have intermingled, of course. Of course, if you come from a so-called mixed racial parentage, you would have a well, I would say a confusion in your ethnic identity. That is, and that does not happen to most of the population on Earth, because most people that lives on Earth are poor, too poor enough to travel, so that they could like a brown skinned person from Indonesia. It's rather hard for them to breed with a white skinned person from Ireland, for example. So to say that race does not matter, it does not exist, is bullshit, and it matters. It is it's a form of cultural, and it's not just, of course, skin color and all that. It's cultural identity that we should all come to terms that it exists, and not just deny that. Say, hey, I don't see fucking colors, I am colorblind. That's bullshit, because when you look at me, you know I'm not a white person. But what am I? Ethnically, how do I say this? I get pissed when people. I'm getting a bit passionate about this subject because a lot of people I hear in America, because of their influence, they come to such a point that they say, hey, race does not matter to me. It does not exist in your cultural frame of reference. If you are a New Yorker, God forbid. But it does in the rest of the world. So you cannot judge the small minority of how the perception of people regarding this issue of race, in your New Yorkian environment. That's just not true. Because in that sense, the people, and you guys just New York and all mix up and jumble up racial attributes you have there. But there's something you lack. You lack the cultural identity or ethnic identity that I think a lot of human beings still need, especially in this day and age where religion is phasing out. And people need to feel social, the need to needs to conform to certain social groups. That's just human beings, how human beings are. That's how national borders are formed. Because well, if we all can just not see all that, of course there will be like no wars, nothing, and there also will be no competition, which is so untrue. Race is basically like, if you compare our species to the dogs, it's just a subspecies, like Cocker Spaniel, Schnauzer, Rottweiler, Chinese. Well, that's a generalization of it. Of course, there are many ethnic branches when you're Chinese. When I say Chinese here, I mean like children of the Tang or Han Dynasty, Irish, Hispanics, etc., etc. It does exist, and it still plays a very important role in how we look at things, because it shows that how our previous generations were, and that's how deform your mindset. Of course, you could be a generation from a generation of immigrants, and trying hard to assimilate into the modern society of this metropolitan America. Certain parts of America, not everywhere, obviously. So to deny all this is to not even look at the issue of all these things that's happening. Yeah. Hispanic voters traditionally were Republicans. Now they're not so much, and that's a fact. So I think it's a lot of bullshit, and when you say that race don't exist, it doesn't matter, because it still does. We still need it, like to a certain extent, like how we need religion to continue. I don't know. I mean, I myself, I'm from a very small ethnic group. It's called the Peranakan Chinese, which basically means that the early Chinese who have immigrated to Southeast Asia before the Great Revolution of Communist China, and we therefore escaped all that hindrance towards our cultural development in many sense. My ethnic race, the Peranakan, are the ones that has preserved the Chinese cultures and identity, and were able to afford to do so because we were not oppressed by communism, etc. And I'm not saying that communism is evil, because it helped China to gather in one piece for as long as it took. So that's another subject matter. But what I'm trying to really emphasize is that we are all people that belong to certain ethnic racial group, and if you don't, and you're just like dogs which are mixed breeds, you don't have a identity. Think about it. If you're mixed between a Rottweiler and a Chihuahua, God forbid, you don't have a cultural identity. For dogs, there's like no much. I mean, it is in the world of dog breeders, these breeds are not often desirable. I'm not saying that you should only breed with your own kind, but all I'm saying is majority of the population on Earth breeds with their own kind because of cultural and geographic hindrance. So to say that all those does not exist and doesn't matter, that's fucking bullshit. It's denying the obvious. And if you really think about it, human beings, given like every other species, given separated by geography and everything else, given time long enough, we will evolve into different species. Duh, that's what evolution is about. But of course you say this is globalization, but not everyone is living in the effects of a globalized world. Bear in mind, most people are very poor and starving, and they breed within their own kind only. Okay, would you want to, because of, again, geographic, cultural, economic hindrances. So to say, this race does not exist and I'm fucking colorblind, I don't see your color when I talk to you, bullshit.